Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Kimberly and this is Seamus Campbell.
I am the website coordinator at City College, New York.
And I am the Director of Visual Media at the Community Graduate Center. So today we're going to be talking about one of the most pervasive issues in higher ed, silos. We're going to be talking about how we've worked to break down silos in respects to our website redesign projects.
So, when you're doing a redesign, first thing you always want to think about is what issues are trying to solve, and basically what do you want to accomplish. So for us, when we started our redesign project in 2019, or 2018 actually, and then we launched in 2019, we just got hit with an OCR complaint, so we had to fix that. And as a result of that, we also learned that there were professors that were uploading some of their research articles that they had signed away the copyrights to, so there was going to be some issues there. The developers of the old site, for us, they did a terrible job where I couldn't even actually access the code underlying all the templates and stuff, so I actually ended up having to use a lot of jQuery DOM LFX to try to make simple edits. So it was various things like that. So we all basically wrote down everything that we needed to help fix. You met with our various content editors, see what things do they want, and then together we all compiled everything into one giant list. From there, we also spoke to the president of the college, some of the VPs, various deans, and department chairs, and basically all tried to make sure that they were on board with these things, because when push comes to shove, you're going to need the people at the C-suite to always be have your back, because people are going to go complain on the food chain. And as long as the top of the food chain actually can support you on everything, you're going to be okay. So then finally, when it came time for us to actually go in and start sending everything to our design team and our development team, we divvied up basically my colleague Prem over there. Yeah, he actually came up with all of our designs, and we sent them over to our to the developers that we had hired. So we got a lot of our plate, wrote down the stuff that we were able to do internally, and then meanwhile I went through and wrote down all the things that I needed help with. But at the same time, I also then did a lot of research on various modules that would help accomplish these tasks. So it actually did take a lot of load off of everyone that we had hired to help with our system.
Okay. So next, meeting with your stakeholders. So you want to try to establish some open lines of communication. So we saw that the website project, it wasn't just about the website, it was also an opportunity to unify the diverse voices within the institution. So in order to do this, we met with a wide variety of people throughout the institution. So one of the first things we did was establish a website advisory group. This was a group of faculty, staff, and students. And it was really diverse. It was different academic programs, different administrative offices. We have both doctoral and master's students, so it was a mix of those as well. And we were trying to be very transparent with this group. We met with them several times throughout it. We gave them a lot of updates, and we always asked for their feedback. So at one point, we even, at one of our meetings, we presented our proposed site architecture. We talked about, how we came up with this architecture. We talked about, where some of the key pages would go, and we gave them all a copy. And then after the next meeting, they came back with their concerns and their feedback. So in that meeting, we actually worked to incorporate, the feedback that made sense among the group into our site architecture. We also had 3 community-wide meetings. So these meetings were at different points throughout the process. It was a nice chance to engage with users that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to engage with. At one of the meetings, we presented our design concepts. So these are 2 design concepts that we were deciding between. We already went through our core group and our web advisory group. So we decided to let the community decide which one to go with. So, we presented the designs, we showed some mock-ups, we talked about the colors, the fonts, and at the end of it, we sent an online poll to everyone and let them decide. So they decided on our first design. And then we also met with leadership. So one of our goals from the redesign was also to establish website governance. So we needed leadership support. We actually met with them a few times about governance, and at one point we even brought in an outside consultant just to add a little bit of weight to the conversation. And we actually didn't let up on the conversation about governance until leadership gave us their full support for it. So it was really important though, because we needed leadership to validate that these processes for the rest of the community. And so these were just a few of the groups that we met with throughout the process. We met with a lot more than this, but these are just some examples. And it wasn't just like a procedural thing, it was really deliberate to meet with a wide spectrum of people throughout the community, and to meet with them in meaningful ways.
So, got your design done, got your code basically ready for a minimal viable product. What's the first thing that you do? You test. So that's basically what happened with us at City College. And it was like a kid on Christmas Day. We were just spending several hours on there because we kept on finding bugs. And I was easily at the office till 8 o'clock, several days on end, basically just making minor edits here and there. And we had to make sure that it was a minimal viable product before we brought it to our users, for them to then test it. Because no matter what, they're going to have feedback, and we all know this. So number one thing I can always say, test. Another big thing I will say is, because you're going to want to see what it is on the user end, and also what it is for the content editor end, Masquerade module is going to be your best friend, because then you get to experience what it's going to be like in their shoes, and you can find all sorts of bugs, going through all the logs and all that. As I said, be ready for late nights. And once you finally have your minimal viable product out, you'll be having your meetings with your content editors and all various stakeholders, and be ready for feedback. And write it down, but also be ready to filter through people that just don't like change, because no matter what, that's always going to happen. And then also the ones who are going to say, oh yeah, this is great, thank you. So make sure you just take the good with the bad. The number one thing also, or number two, I guess, make sure you have trainings and manuals ready, because the old saying goes, teach a man to fish, he'll live forever, or eat forever. Because you don't want to constantly have them emailing you, putting in tickets saying, hey, I need help with this. If you just say to them, hey, you can just go here, they can bookmark it, boom, they can find that quick reference.
All right, what to expect. So you worked really hard to this point. You want to maintain that collaborative culture that you started creating. But no matter how much you worked, how much you tried to be inclusive, how much you tried to engage people, you're going to get pushback. It's just inevitable. And as frustrating as this could be, and as much as you could see this as a setback, you got to try to look at it as a continuation of the dialogue that you started with the community. So for us, for example, after we launched, it was actually pretty quiet, so I took it as a good thing. But after a few months, after living with the site for a little while, we started hearing some complaints about the placement of a certain menu. So after we got over our initial frustration with this, we decided, okay, we got to get to the bottom of this. So we talked with those users that we heard about this from. We tried to understand the issue more. We came up with some solutions, and then we talked to our developer and we implemented one. So in this case, the pushback, becomes a benefit. And this is also the point where you're going to want to start enforcing those new workflows. So hopefully the workflows, work to create a better culture of collaboration throughout the institution. There's always going to be people that don't want to use those new workflows, and you just have to keep it explaining to them, be patient with them. And if not, hopefully those workflows, if they're part of your governance, you did get leadership support for those. All right, and then also training. For us, we had a lot of training available for our community. We had training classes, we had documentation, we did one-on-one sessions with people. This is one of our trainings. We did all of them via Zoom, and this one actually has our now president who took our Drupal training. But we trained about 100 people within the first few weeks when we launched the training. And in the trainings, we told people how to use Drupal. We told people how to do the updates that they would most likely want to do. And additionally, we reinforced several times throughout the training that if they didn't want to do those updates, no problem. The web team was there to help them, right? So they didn't need to be the Drupal experts. That's what we were there to do. So if we needed help with their business office content or their academic program content, we would come to them. But if they needed help with Drupal, come to us. So we tried to reinforce this collaborative culture. So it's important to remember that your redesign is not just about launching that new website, but it's also about making these workflows that will make it more collaborative.
So of course you can see just like 2 little screenshots of our new sites. So City College and the CUNY Graduate Center, they are 2 colleges within the greater CUNY system, which there's a whole other discussion about how it all works. It's very weird. But yeah, you can see how we've all turned out with our various sites. But big thing you always remember about any sort of redesign is that it's an ongoing process. There's always, just as we all know with software development, you're never completely done. There's always going to be bugs that you find, new things you want to implement, new designs, things like that. So it is constantly evolving. So, and if you ever, and also just keep on listening to user feedback, because sometimes you will get, hey, I've seen this thing, how about you try implementing it? And you have to then think, oh, will this work? Will this work with other users? What's the worst case scenarios? You have to like play through all of that stuff. But then as time will go on, basically it is a redesign all in stuff when you just create a new paragraph, new page template, content type, etc. Thank you, everyone. Questions?
Very cool. I think everyone feels this pain at some point, regardless of scale. Can you share a moment example, when you were, evaluating like these workflows you talked about? Like, is there an instance where like maybe you identified like a critical path that could have been like a modular path, or like that could be applied to across the different silos that were?
I mean, we implemented forms for a lot of things. And these forms, we kind of automated them like most of you guys probably do, like if it has to do with a different office, so we go to the correct person. And we also, part of our redesign was an attempt, not a successful attempt, but it was an attempt that, all the stuff that didn't really belong on our public website to move it over to our intranet. So we didn't succeed in that, but we did succeed in, moving a lot of those forms over to somewhere else and also incorporating them. So like, if one form had to do with multiple departments, then it would go to these other places as well.
And for us, major thing that happened was, so with our Drupal 7 site, which we were using the organic groups module for each office, departments, schools, divisions, sites. And so as a result, there was always this sort of siloing of all the uploaded files. And one of the things that ended up just basically all the users were just right-clicking and saving each other's photos. And so one of the things is this, because of how when the groups module came out for Drupal 8, now 10, it was basically there was no setup for the media as well. So it ended up being one giant collaboration folder, which actually ended up being like, oh, we can all use each other's photos, and it is very collaborative that way. And there is also, of course, built-in credit given.
Was all your training like live, virtual live, whatever? And how do you deal with like onboarding people get like on-demand training?
Well, for City College, we first did it as well because we have about 200 content editors across our campus. So we started having classroom trainings. So we usually about 20 or 30 people there. Then that was going until about February or so, and then the pandemic hit, and then we moved everything online. Now we usually do one-on-ones, but part of the requirements now is if you want to be a content editor for our site, you need to email my team with the head of your office or department saying like, hey, I want to be a content editor, and we do require training in the CMS before we give you any of the keys.
Yeah, for us it was pretty similar. When we launched our site, we were moving to Drupal from a CMS called Kentico, so it was new to everyone. So after we launched, for a little while our training was not ready. So about a month later, the training started, and we held a training every day of the week for 2 weeks in a row, and then we cut back to, I believe it was like either twice a week or 3 times a week for like another 2 weeks, and then we switched to like 1 time a week, and now we're only at 1 time a month. So all of our trainings were on Zoom, but we had all of the documentation available too on our site, And now, if someone wants to gain access to our system, they have to attend our training. And if it's like, some emergency for some reason, we'll usually say, okay, fine, and we'll give them a recording. We record all of our trainings, so we'll send them a recording. But after they watch the recordings, we do reach out to them and say, hey, are there any questions? And we'll schedule a one-on-one with them. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.